all of you have been looking forward to this. I hope I've been looking forward to it. So today we're going to talk about Spider-Man, which is my absolute favorite cartoon when I was a kid. Every Saturday morning, Spider-Man would come on. I just loved it. So if you don't know the Spider-Man story real quick, there's a guy named Peter Parker. He's like a college student. And, when he's a kid, his parents die and he lives with his Uncle Ben. So he goes through this tragedy as a young child. And he's raised by his uncle, and his uncle teaches him how to be like a responsible, strong human being. And then, one day he's like at the science lab and the spider gets hit by like some kind of laser beam or something and changes its DNA, and the spider bites him, and then he gets superpowers, right? So then now he's like this nerdy, geeky guy with superpowers and super strength. And, he's got the spider sensibility where he can detect danger that other people can't detect. And he can, jump crazy high and like stick his hands to walls and climb buildings and do kinds of cool stuff. And the story is really about like, what do you do with power? Like, what do you do with your gifts? Like, what do you do with, the hand you're dealt in life, right? Because he didn't ask to be bit by a spider. He didn't ask for superpowers. It just kind of happened to him. And he makes lots and lots of mistakes along the way, right? As we all do in life. And so his Uncle Ben is kind of like his father. It's like, his father died, but his Uncle Ben is the one who raises him. And his Uncle Ben teaches him how to be a man, basically, how to live correctly in the world. And one of the things he says is that with great power comes great responsibility. Like ever since he was a kid, it's like with great power comes great responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. It's just like always, like every episode, you hear that again and again and again, right? And it's just a great message, right? Because it's true. Like it's like one of these fundamental truths of life that with power comes responsibility. But the reverse is also true, is that with responsibility comes power, right? And so the way it works is like, if you have power, like let's say you're, well, first of all, we all have power. So it doesn't matter like what you do in life. We all have power. Like you have the power just to be alive, like to make decisions, to make choices, like what you do with your life, that is power, right? If you have children, like you have an enormous amount of power in their lives. Like you direct pretty much everything about their life, right? So we all have lots and lots of power. And we're often taught in our society that, you only have power if you have money or if you're a politician or something like that, but that's not true at all. Like we all have an enormous amount of power to make decisions, to direct our own life and direct the lives of others and to impact the lives of others, right? And so with that power comes responsibility, right? Because like you can't separate the two things. Like if you have power, you have responsibility, which means that you have a duty, right? You have a duty to use your power in a way that helps people and doesn't hurt people, right? And Martin Luther King has this great speech about, if you're going to be a street sweeper, be the best darn street sweeper you can be, all right? And what that means is like, you might have this lowly job, you might have this lowly place in life, you might seem like you don't have power, but the street sweeper has complete authority over what happens in the street, right? Like either it's clean or it's not, which makes a huge difference in terms of like disease and like beauty and all kinds of things, right? So it's not nothing, right? It's something. So every thing you have in life, every little piece of power, every little opportunity you have to impact other people, it makes a difference. And so with that power, you have to choose, how do you want to act, all right? And the reverse is like, if you want more power in life, you have to take on more responsibility, right? If you want to achieve more in life, if you want to do more in life, if you want to make a bigger difference, or if you want more money or whatever it is that you want, you have to have more responsibility, right? You have to take on that extra responsibility. Right. And that's one of the things that, you can see a lot of you on the team are already doing, like Jacob stepping up and managing the whole editing department, right? Like he's taking on more responsibility, right? And that's giving him more power to influence the company, more power to influence what happens, the books we publish, the decisions we make, et cetera, right? So that's a good thing to do, right? And you have to know, like you have to do it wisely, right? It's not like you just want to like, oh, I'm going to become president today, right? Like you kind of have to build your way up to like where you want to go. But I think what Spider-Man teaches us is that like the path is that you take one step at a time, right? And you constantly improve your capacity, constantly improve your ability, right? And you can see that in the Spider-Man story. So like he has these powers, he has these abilities, but like he has to develop his own like web Like he has to like go into a lab and like create this web and like create this thing to shoot webs, right? So like it's not part of his power. So he has his power, his talent that like God or the universe gives him, but then he has to work on that, right? He has to take his own creativity, his own intelligence, and make it better, right? And there's so many books and science and research on this, like, we're all born with talents and gifts and skills, but if you just sit on your talents, gifts, and skills, you're not going to have much power. You're not going to be able to achieve much, right? It's when you take your talents, when you take your skills and you work on them and you use your creativity, use your intelligence, use your hard work to make them better, to amplify them, right? So, and again, you can, like, all of you are already doing this in many ways, right? Like Queenie with, working on her new documentary project and like learning those skills and working on new designs, right? You take this gift that you've been given and you work really hard to make it even better, to amplify it, to make it stronger, to learn more things, to do new things, right? So we all have the hand we've been given. And the question is, what are you going to do with it, right? What are you going to do with your gifts? What are you going to do with your skills? What are you going to do with your power? What are you going to do with your responsibility? And the thing that makes Spider-Man different from almost every other superpower hero in the Spider-Man world is that he chooses the good, right? He chooses to save people, to help people, to make the world better. And all the bad guys, they choose, like, they want money, or they want power, or they want this thing that doesn't align with other people's interests, right? And so you have to know, like, what is your goal? Like, what do you want to achieve? Like, where are you going in life, right? Because that's going to determine how you use your power, how you use your responsibility, all the choices that you make. So make sure when you set that goal for yourself that it's a worthy goal, right? That's something worth achieving, right? Jim Rohn said, don't set a goal to earn $1 million for what it will give you. Set that goal for who you will become in that process, right? So think about that when you're setting goals. Like, who are you becoming when you achieve this goal? Who are you going to become? How are you going to improve? How are you going to make the world better, right? So it's not just about you. And obviously, yes, your goals are important for you. You should have goals that make your life better, but they should also make the lives of people around you better too. And then there's the other part, which is really a part of like any kind of superhero with a mask story, which is that you have to hide your identity, right? So the people in Peter's life, they don't know he's Spider-Man, right? And he has to keep those two worlds separate. And the reason is because he wants to protect the people he loves and cares about, right? He doesn't want them to get hurt by bad guys who know his true identity. But when I was thinking about this, like, it's just like so true on a much deeper level, right? Because, like, don't we all do that in some way? Like, we, in some area of life, we feel like we have to hide who we are. We have to feel like we have to hide this part of ourselves. We have to wear this mask around people we care about because we want to protect them, right? We don't want to upset them. So think about, like, have you ever lied to a loved one to protect them, right? Have you ever hidden something from them about yourself or about your life that, because you didn't think they could handle it, or you didn't think they were strong enough, or you thought they might get upset, or you thought it might hurt the relationship. And then how did that work out, right? Like what happened? Like, how did that work out for you? And, the whole Spider-Man story is really this story. It's his two identities, and how does he integrate those in his life? Which, if you think about it, is kind of like the story of, like, the human psychology, which is like, how do you integrate your personality? Like, how do you integrate all the different parts of yourself? Like, how do you become one, like, adult human being who is everything that you are, like, mean and nice, and arrogant and humble, and, like, you incorporate, like, the good and bad parts of yourself, so you're like a complete human being, right? And you can really own that. Like, yeah, sometimes I know I can be mean, and sometimes I can be totally loving, and, like, accepting that that's part of who you are, and that's a part of being human, right? And so Spider-Man's story is really the story of, like, gradually letting the people he loves and cares about see his true self. Like, he reveals his true self, and that's when his life gets better, and that's when, like, his life is the best, when he's totally integrated, right? When he's totally honest with the people around him. Right? So, the lesson is, like, when you reveal your true self, your relationships get better, right? And how could it be any other way, right? Like, if you really want a great relationship with someone, like, they have to really know who you are, right? Which means you have to know who you are, which means you have to be true to yourself, which means you have to reveal the good and bad parts of yourself, right? and be honest about it so that you can grow. And this other common theme through the Spider-Man story is like the showing off, right? So when he first gets his power, he does all these different things to show off, to like look cool. He basically uses his power in a way that's selfish, right? It's not to make the world better. It's to make himself feel better, right? It's to make himself seem cool or look good, right? And you know, how many times have you done that in your life? Like, how many times have you used your power, used your authority, used your responsibility, used something just to look good, just to make yourself feel better, just to make people like you, right? The problem is it always makes things worse for him, right? Every time he shows off, there's always like a cost. There's like a price that you pay for that, right? And it might just be an emotional cost. It might be like a real cost. It might hurt people around you. But there's always a cost, right? And so the lesson is like, you know, beware, you know, like there's this old saying, like absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? Like that there is a dangerous side to power, right? And that we all have power and there is a dangerous side to it. And that you have to constantly be vigilant about that, right? You have to constantly, like, it's not like a one-time decision that you make, like, oh, I'm going to be a good person. And then your whole life just works out perfectly. Like, it doesn't work that way. It's like a constant, every day you have to make the good decisions, right? It's like every day you're going to be tested. Every day you're going to be tempted, right? And you have to constantly remind yourself about what is your goal? What is your vision? Where are you going? And are you going to make the right choices? And then the other thing that Spider-Man has, he has the spider sense, right? He has this unbelievable ability to detect problems and dangers and threats before anyone else. And well, the interesting thing about this is we all have our spider sense. Like, we all have our intuition, right? We all have a conscience, and you can detect it before anyone else because no one has your conscience and your intuition, right? It's like we all have this superpower. And I remember when I was a kid, like, intuition, it was like this thing that's just made up. It's like pseudoscience. It's like not real. But the more I've grown up and the more I've lived life and the more I've studied actually neuroscience and psychology and biology, it's like it's totally real, right? Because you have two hemispheres of your brain, and you have the subconscious and the conscious part of your brain. And the thing is, like, the subconscious is like does like 99% of the work. So it figures out problems long before you consciously are aware of them. So a lot of times what that intuition is for you is like this part of your brain that's not conscious that's figured out there's a problem, that there's a threat, and it's giving you some emotional signs, like maybe a feeling in your chest or a different emotion, or you're having some kind of sensation, and you can tell like it's your conscience or there's something wrong, or you're not quite sure what it is yet because you haven't consciously figured it out. And so what that is for me is like a sign that I need to, like, you know, slow down, think about it, take some time off before I act, right? You know, don't ignore your intuition. Don't ignore your conscience. Like, it's there to serve you. Like, there's a purpose to it. And so if you're about to make a decision and you feel that your spider sense goes off, you know, you don't have to make the decision right away. Like, nothing in life has to be done right now, right? There's never a rush. And so until you're totally ready to jump in and take that next step, like, just take some time to think about it, right? You don't have to rush into anything. But listen to yourself, right? Like, listen to that voice inside you, listen to that conscience, listen to your emotions, your feelings, because there's a reason for them. There's a purpose to them. It's not random, right? People don't randomly get sad, right? It doesn't happen. Like, you just don't randomly do anything. Like, there's nothing random about being a human being. Right? People used to say that like dreams are random, but like if dreams were random, it looked like the static on a TV. It wouldn't look like, you know, a movie with like a story and a plot line and emotions. Like, that's not random, right? So there's a purpose to it, and you might not know what that purpose is yet, right? It might take you some time to figure it out. But it, you know, that's a super valuable skill if you can listen and tune into your emotions, tune into your conscience, tune into your intuition. And it really is a superpower. Honestly, I really believe that. I mean, I've seen this in my own life. Like, when I didn't listen to it, like I didn't listen to my conscience or didn't listen to my intuition or emotions, that's when I made like the biggest mistakes in life, right? And then the times when I did listen and I made like what seemed like superhero decisions that were like totally were the right decision, and it didn't just seemed wild at the time, right? It, but you know, little by little, knowing yourself better and listening to yourself more is only going to make your life better, right? And the other thing psychologically about this is that the way fear works is it's like a sign to explore, right? So if you look at like a mouse, like if a cat comes into the area, the mouse will like run away and hide, right? And then as soon as the cat goes away, the mouse will start to go to where the cat was and like sniff around and explore a little bit, and then it'll go back in its den and hide. And it'll go out and explore a little bit more, explore a little bit more, explore a little bit more. And so what the animal is doing is it's exploring its environment. It's going to where the danger was and exploring it and learning about the environment so it can protect itself in the future, right? And actually, if you look at human beings, like we're the same way, like, you know, we're programmed just the same way. But there's lots of different modes of motivations for human beings, right? There's like hunger, there's different drives. There's like hunger and like, you know, thirst and the sex drive and like temperature regulation. Like if you're too hot or too cold, like you're gonna do something to fix that, right? There's all these different drives we have. And the interesting thing is that when all of your drives are taken care of, like when you're well fed and you had enough sleep and your temperature is okay and everything's just right, your default setting is exploration, right? That's like our default setting as human beings, is to explore. And so what I found is that when that intuition is going off, that thing is going off, that means it's time to explore, right? It means there's something in your area, there's something in your life that you need to go look at and learn more about, because there's something there waiting for you, some secret or some knowledge or some piece of wisdom waiting for you there, right? So when your spider sense goes off, just remember to explore a little bit more.